Welcome to TBD, our podcast. I'm Eddie Geller.
I'm Stephanie Vanos.
TBD is not our final name, as it suggested. The final name is still to be determined, but we're TBD for now.
I don't know about you, but I would really be inspired to listen to a podcast called TBD.
Well, I mean, they're listening to it right now, and hopefully they are feeling inspired.
Thank you, Mom and Dad, Mr. Geller.
So we are talking about all things politics and also what it's like to be a member of a school board, an elected official, of which you are one of them. Do you want to tell the folks who you represent?
I represent the people of District 6 in Orange County, Florida. I am a school board member, and I was elected in August 2024 and sworn into the board on November of 24. So I'm about 6 months in now, so I kind of have my feet underneath me, and yeah, I love it. I feel so honored and privileged to represent District 6, and yeah.
You sound like a real politician.
Yeah, but we all know I'm not.
What's the saying for District 6? You all have sayings at the board.
I don't want to say I'm 100% committed to this, but
Okay.
Right now it's District 6 where everything clicks. And who helped me come up with this little phrase? But of course, our photographer, Frank, amazing. Love Frank at OCPS.
He's such a sweet guy. Like, he's always, for folks who are listening, like, and you've never been to a school board meeting, like, there'll be these pictures where there's recognitions of like entire team, like a soccer team or a dozen plus custodians. It's like, he has to kind of corral everyone and the board into these pictures. And he just does it with just such like a sweetness and sense of humor. He seems like a real nice guy.
He keeps everyone in a good mood. And we have a lot of recognitions. I will say we do have a lot of recognitions, takes a lot of time at our meetings, but he keeps everyone. He reminds us that we need to look happy, and look happy we do. Thank you, Frank.
I've heard a rumor you've been told to smile on the board.
I love the recognitions. I love recognizing the people. I love our students, love our schools.
Well, you are, I know you are so proud to be up there, but it is also, you're doing your job. It is work, and it's work you're very happy and proud to do. But I'm a video editor, video producer by trade. I am not smiling every second I am editing a video. So if someone like tapped me on the shoulder or looked at me across the room and like made a motion for me to smile, I might be a little taken aback.
No, it's all good. I love the board, love the superintendent. It's a good place to be. And truly, I cannot imagine a job that I would be happier to have.
I just want people to know for the record that I am not out here telling any woman to smile.
I can't believe that. Wow. I can't believe you just told me to smile.
I would never. Well, I feel like when we're talking, you're smiling. I mean, that's how it's been for the last little bit. Oh, should we tell people that we're in a relationship? Do you think that's going to be a surprise?
I don't know if we should tell them yet. Let's think about it.
We'll discuss that one off mic. Okay. Before we dig into some juicy topics today, we're talking about book banning, some decisions that were coming in front of you and the school board. We're talking about some funding cuts that Florida's dealing with, and some just national news that the garbage fire that is this administration and some of Trump's polling numbers that recently came out. Before we get into the nitty gritty, you and I just got back from a little trip down south.
We did. We just got back from Miami today, went down there to see my good friend, Liz Barker, school board member in Sarasota. She was honored last night with Ruth's List Florida, which is an organization that promotes and supports women running for office in the state of Florida. Liz is a powerhouse. She's amazing. She is just such a breath of fresh air, common sense, gets the work done, hard worker, mom of 4 kids. So I just love her and was so happy to see her be honored this weekend.
She's just true blue is the way that I describe Liz. Like, she's just like a wonderful human being who worked her ass off to get elected in, a pretty red place. So, she didn't have the cakewalk glide path that some people on this podcast had.
Wow. Shots fired.
No, you, for the record, I am very aware and very proud and have much admiration for how hard you worked. But
Liz worked harder.
No, I did not say that. I think you and Liz both worked very, very hard. And when we get off this podcast and we're not on mic, I will tell you how much harder you worked than Liz.
Liz, we love you.
We love you, Liz. It was great seeing her. It was great seeing other members of the board. I mean, I think it's an interesting thing, and I know I mentioned this to you, that, I am hanging around you and some of the other board members, and, you're talking about what's going on in your districts, and there's almost this sort of, it's funny to me as someone, because I ran for office, and I was not victorious, and so I just am in some ways just in awe of like, you all like work so hard to win an election, and now that's just like in your past. Like that was for a period of your lives. Like, you're not all first time candidates, but a lot of you who you were chatting with, like that was the biggest thing in your life, was to run for office and winning the most amazing thing. And now that's like in the past, and now you're on to another thing. That just feels it's like a little strange to me. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I don't think we have time to think about it. Honestly, I mean, there is a lot of work to do. There is a lot happening, and we are also busy. And I feel like you just kind of move on. You win, you get sworn into office, and then it's just a scramble to kind of learn as much as you can and figure out what's going on and think about what you really want to do with your limited time serving the people.
Do you think about your campaign much, or to your point, are you like that's in the past and you'll think about it the next time you run?
No, I think about it because I was surrounded by the best people during my campaign. I just was surrounded by the best team, the best people, and I'm so thankful for them. And it was hard work, but it was also really fun. I feel like in everything you do, if you cannot find the joy and you cannot find the fun in what you're doing, it's just not worth it. So I do think about it a lot, but we're on to school board work now.
It was an amazing campaign. Going back to Ruth's list, this past weekend in beautiful Miami, we just did not have enough time to go around and enjoy ourselves. We did have some delicious food. But I'm curious, was there anything else interesting that happened on the Ruthless stage last night?
Not a thing. I don't know what you could be talking about. Not sure. No.
Okay, so I'm ready to dig into this. One of the things people think about when they think about school boards in the last few years is this push to ban books, Moms for Liberty, folks coming up and reading portions of books that might be, small salacious portions of books that are otherwise like filled with plenty of literary value and literary merit, and people, I would say cherry picked portions to get attention. So a lot of this has been going on. People trying to ban these books. We've seen this here in Orange County, and you had a couple of books that were up for review that had made it to the board. And one thing I want to do before we get into this discussion, you posted some of your remarks, and I want to play those remarks as kind of a way to get into this discussion, and kind of you can, once I play them, you can sort of give your response.
I just want to say I really appreciate everybody's comments up here. And I did want to, and I echo a lot of what my fellow board members have said. Chair Jacobs made a point about questioning public money being used for books. And I think, it's important to point out that the amount of public money that we are spending on reviewing these books. If we look at, if we assume it took each board member 6 hours to read each book, and then another 2 hours to read John's long email and and some other notes, that's 112 hours of board member time that was spent on these two books that have already been reviewed by our community, by our media specialists, by our teachers, by people whose job it is to review these books. So that is, time is money. And that doesn't include the time that is spent updating the dashboard, the time that is spent posting notices, the time that is spent by our attorneys reviewing everything. And so I think, I just think that's, as we have these book objections and we have more and more this year, I see that is taking time away from what we should be doing in this district, which is focusing on our students' need and their achievement and their mental health, and supporting our teachers and making sure our students are safe and our schools are safe. And then I'll just close with, a case that was recently decided in 2004, it was Moms for Liberty versus Brevard County Public Schools. And I'll just read 2 sentences of the decision, but the court said, and this was the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, the government is ill-equipped in any event to decide what is or is not offensive. Enduring speech that irritates, frustrates, or even offends is a necessary cost of freedom. So I, again, will be voting to uphold the District Literacy Council's recommendation.
Great remarks.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to say whoever edited that video, kudos to them. They did a great job capturing, your remarks on stage. But can you, for the audience, talk about what those books were, how we got to this point that y'all were reviewing, and explain a little bit of the remarks that you made about taking the time and the resources?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, first of all, we have been seeing a lot of book challenges this year. And last year, I didn't know that there was one, but this year we're probably in the 20s of book challenges. And so the way it works in our district is anyone can, object to a book. They fill out a form and they, mark their objection. And then there's really no requirement that they have to read the whole book. They can share the parts of the book that they find objectionable. In both of these cases, the parts they found objectionable appeared to just be printed off of a website and copied. There was no written explanation of why the person who objected to these books really had any issue with them. So after they object to them, we have established a district literary council, and that includes a parent, a teacher, a media specialist, and 2 or 3 other individuals that review the book. They read the book in its entirety, and then they meet, and then they share their opinion. They read the reviews of the book, publishers review, all of that, and then they meet and they consider what they have guidelines that they look through, and they consider whether the book should remain on the shelves, whether it should be, only available to certain grades. And then once they make their decision, if the objector does not agree with it, they have an opportunity to appeal that decision to the school board. So this is the first time that any book has been appealed to the school board. And that was kind of the setup for the meeting that we had last week.
Got it. Okay. And so what were the books?
So the first one was Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. I loved this book. I just have to say it won 4 different awards. And I thoroughly enjoyed this book. And honestly, while I was reading this, it was over 400 pages. I was really struggling to understand why someone would object to this book. It's sort of a coming of age book. It's about a girl. She's 18. She's a senior in high school, 18 years old, kind of coming of age in the 1950s as a Chinese American. She lives in San Francisco, and she's kind of discovering herself, discovering her identity. She has her family. This is kind of during the time of, the Red Scare. And so her family's afraid of being, of all things, deported, is particularly her father. So that's kind of the background on that book. The other one was And They Lived by Stephen Salvatore. And that one, again, it's a coming of age book of a boy who goes off to college, and sort of he's discovering himself, self-acceptance, learning how to be in a relationship. It's a lot about, relationship with parents. There's a good bit in there about body dysmorphia and eating disorders, and then just also modeling really positive interactions with mental health counselors and therapists.
Can you talk a bit more about this idea of spending resources? Because I saw, I do tend to look at your Facebook page, and someone was making a few comments about why say this is a waste of resources. Like if, why, if people have an objection to a book, why is it a waste of resources for the school board to look at it? So I'm curious if you could, explain that a bit more.
I'm so glad you asked that question. Thank you for the question. The first thing, just so, everyone's aware, in our district and in probably every district in Florida, parents, number one, they have the ability to opt their children out of any books they do not want them to read in the school library. So number one, parents are already in control of the books their children read. If you want to restrict your child's access to a book, you can. You can just tell the media specialist, I do not want them to read, X book, Y book, Z book. You can look on your little website that tells you which books, you might want to object to, and just list those books. Easy. So there's already an opportunity for parents who want to restrict access for their own children. So that's number one. Number two, in high school, a high school student checks out on average less than one book per student per year.
It's not a lot of books.
So the real crime is that our students aren't checking books out, right? It's not that they're not even checking these books out. So how about I would love, and I think most parents just want their children to read and to actually use the school library. And I did kind of dig into this a little bit and found out that since these two books, Last Night at the Telegraph Club and They Lived, have been in our school libraries, Last Night at the Telegraph Club has been checked out 7 times, and They Lived has been checked out 1 time.
So we are spending an egregious amount of money for these books that have been checked out a total of 8 times between the two of them.
Right. And for high schoolers that don't really check books out at all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously setting you up because that's partially what I'm here to do. But it is, I think a lot of these folks, and I think you probably have a more charitable opinion of them than I do. I think these people are, maliciously wasting your time. I think they are pro-censorship. And I think it is not lost on me that the 2 books that you were reviewing involved LGBTQ issues, involved people of color. And I think, we're not making these cases about characters that are white or characters that are heterosexual. So, it's these themes and groups of people that I think these folks find devious. Now, are there earnest intentions behind a lot of these folks? Sure. I don't doubt that they think they're earnest, but, intentions to me don't matter if the only books you're challenging are silencing underrepresented voices, underrepresented characters, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is censorship. But that's my take. Nobody elected me. I don't serve on the board. I'm not a public official, so I can say these things. But that's where I'm at on this issue.
Well, I think you hit on it exactly. And our schools are so diverse, right? We have different types of students that have different needs and different interests. And our job as a public school is to provide access to as many different types of books with different authors and different characters and particularly from marginalized groups, sharing that experience for students that, don't have, that sort of need to see themselves in books. I think that's such an important piece of it. And I also want to say, this isn't just about wasting my time. I'm an elected person and I'm happy to read books, but and I enjoyed both of these books, but it's also the district staff's time, right? Because before it even got to us, it went through an entire committee of people who donated their time to read these books and then meet to talk about them and earnestly really go through the checklist and all of that. It went through the staff's time to post notices, to just organize organize the committee hearings, talk to the schools, talk to the principals. And these curriculum specialists who should be spending time ensuring that we have the best curriculum for our students are instead wasting time on this book objection process. And you're right, these books are targeted to particularly LGBTQ books and themes. So it's pretty evident to me what the issue is.
And I think the school board should be spending its time on other important issues, like getting strawberry milk into every elementary school.
You do like the strawberry milk.
Okay, so for context, there was a TikTok that I watched and made you watch. It was like this local news story about how proud they were of this kid who went to his principal and was like, "Where's the strawberry milk?" And then lobbied, I don't remember if it was the school or the school board, to get strawberry milk into the schools. And good for that kid. I mean, if he's listening, kudos to you for getting the strawberry milk. But it was just, it was just funny to me. So our running joke is that where's the strawberry milk in the schools?
Well, if you want to speak to strawberry milk at the next public comment, you certainly can. Okay, so another thing I wanted to share before we leave this discussion was the author of Last Night at the Telegraph Club. Her name is Melinda Lowe. she personally emailed the board members and shared that she wrote this book because of the experiences she had as a child, and that this was the book that she needed when she was growing up. And I just think, again, it's just so powerful. These authors are not writing books to be malicious and somehow, turn kids, gay or, make them, I don't even know like what the fear is with these books, but it's authors who understand that children need to see themselves in literature. And I don't know, just getting that email from the author of the book, I just thought was, it was just was a good reminder about why these books are so important.
It is so beautiful that she reached out. And I know we talked about it when she emailed and how cool that was and how powerful, it's not just an author contacted you and that's neat, though that is, but the fact that, she feels so strongly, as she should, and you do too, to reach out and to tell you why she wrote this book. I mean, I think that to me carries a lot of weight. I mean, not that that your decision hinged on that, but I think that's powerful. Do we think strawberry milk is turning the kids gay?
That's a great question. Unclear.
Okay, so the one other thing I want to bring up while we're still talking about Orange County is funding for AP classes, IB. I'm going to throw it over to you because you explain it better. But this funding fight that's been going down statewide that you've been an incredible advocate on, I want to ask you, what is that fight? Where is that at right now? And what can people do to still get involved, when they're hearing this?
Yeah. So these, I just want to say that a lot of the issues and concerns and things that people want to happen in public school, it almost always comes down to funding. So if we want to spend our time on things that are important in school, let's focus on making sure that our schools have the resources that they need so that they can do the best possible job they can. So this came about, there was a bill that was passed by a bill that was considered by the Florida House, and it proposed to cut the add-on funding for advanced studies classes in half. So this would cut the additional funding for classes like for AP classes, for IB classes, for ACE, Cambridge classes. The House version also included cuts for CTE and certification programs for our students who are, getting certifications in, let's say, like welding or cosmetology or things like that. And so the Senate then also came out with their version, which was a little bit different, did not include some of the cuts for the CAPE funding, which is the career and technical, but did still include cuts for the advanced studies programs. And right now they're about to start kind of budget conferencing. The names of the people in those committees haven't been released yet, but they're about to start that where they'll, work together to kind of find out what the end result is and work together to finalize the budget. So this raised a lot of concern among parents because our advanced classes are extremely popular in public school. Public school offers more advanced classes than really most, if not all, private schools. They help students they give them the opportunity to dig deep into topics and to have access to these advanced level classes. It also helps families save money because you can earn college credit for example, AP classes while you're in high school. And then that means you don't have to pay for those credits when you're in college, as long as you get a 3 or higher on the test or whatever your college might require. So there's huge benefits. So these cuts came down. We let people know. Parents were very upset. I know they sent a ton of emails and sent emails and calls to lawmakers, so much so that I was on a Zoom and the lawmakers were sharing like, please make the parents stop. Like, just tell them to stop sending emails. So that made me feel like, heck yeah, we're doing what we're supposed to do. That's amazing. So we're kind of waiting to see what happens now, but it's very, very concerning. And I would say, I think what is very, malicious about it in particular is that some of the senators are trying to mischaracterize what's happening. And they're saying they're not really cutting the funding. Instead, they're just moving the funding over to the base student allocation. So it will give schools more flexibility. Well, guess where the base student allocation goes? That is part of taxpayer funded vouchers. So by moving the additional add-on funds for these advanced classes into the base student allocation, claiming it's more flexible funding. Really what it's enabling them to do is to shift money over so that more money can also be spent for the voucher program.
Goodness gracious. First of all, we need to do a voucher deep dive at some point, because this is something you've been outspoken about for a long time, and I know just even very recently you've been finding out some more damning information about taxpayer-funded vouchers that I would love to dig into in a future episode. So what can folks are hearing this, what can they still do?
Okay, number one, email your lawmaker. Whoever in the Senate, and this is the House, this is the state, so Florida House and Florida Senate, email your lawmaker, call their office, let them know that let them know your feelings on this. If you oppose cuts to these programs because they will hurt students, let them know. If you've had a good experience with these programs, let them know. You can email your own lawmaker, your own representative. In addition, like I said, the names of the lawmakers that will be doing the budget conferencing for this session's budget, when those names come out, those will be people in particular that you'll want to contact to let them know. But I think it's just keeping the pressure on, letting them know we're paying attention, letting them know we care, letting them know that this is not okay. These are important programs for our public schools. They're important programs for our students. They help our students thrive. They help our families save money. And we see what you're doing, and we are not in agreement with these cuts.
Hell yeah. I love it. Okay. So before we go, I want to talk some national politics for just a minute. I mean, there's just endless amounts of things to be talking about. Just every day is a new crisis. And I think we are very much in this push towards authoritarianism. I feel like we've been saying that almost since 2016. And I think we are seeing that in such a real way with attacks on law firms and universities and usurping local power and these unconstitutional executive orders that are being beaten back in the courts. But what I want to talk about is some recent polling that his approval rating is like quickly going into the toilet. And I'm going to connect things in just a moment, including one of his quote unquote strongest issues, immigration. And this is after, Senator Chris Van Hollen went down to El Salvador to attempt to retrieve Brego Garcia. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about this because you were out here and I'm watching you advocate and make noise on an issue, and we're going to see where everything lands, but it actually makes a difference when elected officials step out and make noise and are on the right side of things. And I think even there's plenty of DC Democratic consultants who would say, and folks like Governor Gavin Newsom, who would say, oh, immigration, that's a Republican issue. We don't want to fight them on that because we're just going to lose. But actually, when you stand up for what's right, when you are putting yourself out there for the side of good, you can persuade people. If, there's a whole lot to be said about what grabs attention, how fragmented our media ecosystem is. So you have to stand out and stand up, and it has to be seen by enough people. But we can still persuade people. We can show people that this is amoral. This is, this is not the America that we want to be. And I think most folks are seeing that. So I'm curious your take. Seeing these Trump poll number slides also helps that he's tanking the economy. But how do you think about that as an elected official and persuading and talking about things that you might not have everyone on your side just yet, but you want to win them to your side? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's important that that people are standing up, that people are speaking out. And I think one of the reasons it's really important, and I think you're right, I think you make a great point. Like, we're not going to convince people overnight to riot and join our side. And that's not something that I am advocating for anyway. But I think it's really important that we don't allow some of these extremists to just control the narrative of what's happening, because I think they do a really good job. I think they do a really, really good job of controlling the narrative, framing the issues. and just putting that information out there, and it gets repeated and repeated and repeated. And it's just becomes part of the way people think about these issues. And I think it's really important for other voices to come out and, just to say, hey, like, what about due process? Like, this is something we all care about. And, due process is important for, not, for everyone. And it's scary when you see that, like you said, just thrown away, like flush it down the toilet. Like, it doesn't matter at all. They came for your neighbor first, they come for you next. And so I think it is important, again, just to frame these issues and just, keep focused on things that are all of our values. They're not Democrat values, they're not progressive values, they're not liberal values. They are American values that we are seeing just completely destroyed.
It is pretty egregious. How do you think about this? And I know you don't always talk about this as much. How do you feel about this as a lawyer, to see due process trampled, to see law firms bending the knee to Trump? Because I know you don't think about yourself first and foremost as a lawyer all the time, but you practiced law for a long time. This was your life for a long time.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm an eternal optimist, and I think, well, the courts will save us. Like, the courts, they are level-headed people, they are smart people. They're not necessarily really politicians in the same way. They will save us. So when I see judges being arrested, there are alarm bells going. I mean, this is not normal. This is not okay. When I see due process rights being trampled, this is just basic constitutional right. When I see these I will tell you, and the law firms kind of caving in, I just so disappointing. I know there are so many public agencies that depend on federal funds. It is harder. It's a more difficult position for them maybe to fight back as hard. But when you have a private law firm, they're the ones that are in the position to fight back. Like, they're the ones that can stand up and say, no, we're absolutely not backing down. No, we're not doing this. We need people. We need businesses. We need corporations. We need people, including law firms, to stand strong. And so I was incredibly disappointed when I saw just them sort of cave. Yeah.
But I think it absolutely could not agree more. And, but I think we are hopefully in a moment where we're seeing that this administration, first of all, they're filled with a bunch of idiots. But they are not as strong as they want us to think they are. And that they have backed down on so many things. And clearly they're doing damage, no doubt about it. But I think if you're thinking about this, you're seeing these headlines, I think it is important to know that none of this is hopeless. None of this is fait accompli. People who think, well, are we even going to have free and fair elections? I mean, maybe a fair thought, but I think we cannot be defeatist, and we cannot throw our hands up and say, oh, they're in power now, they get to do what they want, so I guess we're going to lose and we're not going to have fair elections. No, they are actually very unpopular at the moment. And as long as good Democrats keep stepping up, these institutions, fight back. Dare I give Harvard credit? Not that I have any axe to grind against Harvard. I just, it's Harvard. It's an Ivy League school. Be careful. I went to a great state school, UF, which actually I have some qualms with at the moment. But I think, people are aghast at what is going on. And I think that makes a difference. And when we stand up to them, we are doing a good thing. So I want people to hear this and know that this is very far from over, and it's going to be a lot to get through. And certainly if you are an undocumented immigrant, or even an immigrant with a green card or whatever, there are folks in this country who have a lot more reason to be scared than I do as a white man who's a citizen. But we need to protect folks who are more vulnerable, and we need to just keep standing up, and we need to keep encouraging our elected officials and our institutions and corporations and et cetera. And I know I will be continuing to be a bug in your ear to stand up for what's right. So,
are you saying a bug in my ear or a bug in the listener's ear?
Oh, that's a great question. I meant your ear.
Oh, well, I don't think I need a bug in my ear, but I do want to say.
No, I'm being facetious.
But I do think you make a good point, that it is important to have people speaking out, because I also think it gives people hope.
Yeah.
I think when voters are not saying, and I don't even want to say just Democrats. I think, yeah, Democrats need to speak up, but so do Republicans, and so do MPA, and so do, but like I said, I think
Here.
Everybody needs to speak up. And I think when everyday people see leaders speaking up, it gives them hope that not all is lost, and that we just sit back and let it happen, that no, we do have power. So I think that hope piece of it is so important too.
Well said. I think that's a great place to end. Any parting words for our lovely listeners?
Well, no, but next podcast, I want to get into, do you like Orlando? So that's how we're starting the podcast. So you get to share your updates.
Next episode, we'll talk about how I'm liking Orlando, and we'll get an update on strawberry milk and where the strawberry milk controversy of 2025 has landed.
Very important.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to TBD. I'm Eddie Geller.
I'm Stephanie Vanos.
All right. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.